It's a smart looking guitar, isn't it? Tellies are really bright. That's the Telecaster sound, and this has got that in spades. Let's give it a shot. Oh, that's lucky, really. I was worried that one of those guys out in Japan might get the sack for that, but we're all good. Whew. Unfortunately, I have no idea what that means, but some of you will, and you'll be going, "Ooh." That was a very long-winded way of me saying I thought this sounded all right. So let's get on with this and have a look at it, shall we, and see what it's made of and why I think it's good. Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. Good to see you as always. So today we're going to crack on with the affordable Telecaster reviews, and today, as you saw in the thumbnail, we've got the Tokai, ATE52 is the model designation. Tokai Breezysound is what they called the Telecasters. Looks all right, doesn't it? In natural finish. I think that looks, well, I know it looks bloody cool, that. It's a nice looking guitar, that. If you follow the channel, you'll know, you probably know, I've got a Love Rock, a Les Paul copy, gold top, that I'm very fond of. And Tokai, I'm very fond of. I said before, they've kind of got a place in my heart because I remember Tokai from back in the day. In the early 80s, I remember a bandmate of mine had a Breezysound. He had a black Breezysound, and I always remember what an awesome guitar that was. And, you know, Tokai, you might know, they were one of the original lawsuit guitar manufacturers in the late 70s, 78, I think it's 77, 78. Tokai, who are a Japanese company, along with some of the others, Ibanez and Greco, they started making guitars, copies of guitars, Fender and Gibson guitars, that were actually better than the originals. And then that isn't just a myth, okay? That's a fact, and well, it's a fact as far as, you know, people that know what they're talking about have stated in writing. I've just been reading a book about Fender Squier guitars and how that's all started, and that was as a result largely of a response to Tokai, where Fender in the 70s had completely lost their way and all their tooling had gone out of spec, and they were making some pretty dodgy guitars in the 70s. There were, you know, the body shapes had changed, literally. I'll show you what I mean. Now, I'm not knocking this guitar because it is an original Fender Telecaster Custom of mine that I'm lucky enough to own from 1978. This is a 1978 Telecaster. It weighs a bloody ton. It really does. It's £10. We weighed this before. It's really heavy. And one of the notable things, I'm going to show you this now. If you look at this shoulder, it joins the fret. Look at that there on the, what's that? The 16th fret. Okay. Now I'll just show you another Telecaster. It could be any more modern Telecaster, but we'll use this one. This is my Wilco Johnson signature. That is a Wilco Johnson signature, incidentally. Look at that there. That joins the fret, the fingerboard on the, hang on, 15, 16, 17th fret. Okay, so that was 16, this is 17. So that's an example of how Fender, actual genuine Fender guitars had gone out of spec from the originals. I mean, it's not a massive deal, is it? But look, you know, this is a modern copy, 16th fret. 17th fret. Yeah, 17, there you go. That was just an example of why Fenders were had gone to shit, basically, in the 70s. You know, the weight, the body had kind of wandered out of shape a little bit, and there were all sorts of other issues at that time in Fender. So along come the Japanese, Tokai, Greco, Ibanez, and started making, well, in fact, what they did, according to this book that I'm reading, is they bought original vintage Fenders, they reverse engineered them and started making copies that were better. That were like the originals, basically, so better than those that Fender were making at the time. So this long, drawn-out story will continue. Listen, you can skip forward. The timestamps are in the description box. If there's no interest to you whatsoever, skip forward to the interesting part where we take it apart and look under the pickups and measure it all up and play it. Okay, but let me finish this story because, well, you might be interested. So Fender were looking to put some manufacturing offshore, as the Yanks call it, don't they? Offshore. Anything that's not made in the USA is offshore. So they were looking to outsource some manufacturing and set up Fender Japan. And they actually approached Tokai. They talked to the factory, Tokai, as well as some others, and to sort of see if they could do a deal and get Tokai to make Fenders. It's true, okay? Tokai told them to piss off, basically, said they didn't need them, which I think that's probably wasn't the smartest move in retrospect. But Fender actually eventually went to Fujigen, who are now making FJN guitars, incidentally, and people keep telling me they are fabulous. So we will check one out. Not in this affordable roundup because they're slightly different shape-wise and stuff. So that's something for another day. So yeah, there you go. There's a brief bit of history about Tokai. This one, of course, is made in China. They say under Japanese quality control. And yeah, I said, you know, in retrospect, maybe Tokai made it difficult for themselves by turning it down because Gibson and Fender turned against them in a pretty big way, as you know about all the suing and the lawsuit stuff and that. As far as Tokai are concerned, they're not widely available. Now, this is not based on any actual fact, as far as I know, but I don't think you can get a Tokai guitar in any shop that also deals in Fender or Gibson. I think only the independents can sell you Tokais. Is that true? What do you think? Tell me. Because that's kind of a little bit like, yeah, I don't know what it is, but anyway, it sucks. Because as we will discover, I think, Tokai are great. So let's get on with this and have a look at it, shall we, and see what it's made of and why I think it's good. Well, as you can see, it's a lovely natural finish, isn't it? This is made of alder, which is a proper traditional Telecaster tone wood. So that ticks a box for me. It's two pieces, this body. You can see the very neat join down the middle there, the back and front, straight down the centre. So, you know, it's a smart looking thing. Poly finish, obviously, tough as old boots. String through body. I wonder if these ferrules will fall out when I take the strings off in a minute. It's got a maple, it's got a Canadian maple neck, actually, this. And it's quite a chunky. Now, they call this a U shape. I was going to say it's a D, but apparently it's U. And the other difference is the fretboard radius. This is a 12-inch radius, which, well, it's different to the others. I mean, I'm sure you know what radius is. I've got my radius gauges out so that I can illustrate this. I'm going to put those on there because you might be able to see the difference. There's radius. You know what a radius is, don't you? It's the curve, the curvature. And the old original tellies Someone told me it was up to about 68, I think, but they were these 7¼ inch, which was quite a curve on it. And then they changed to 9½ inch radius. See that, 9.5, which is most common, the most common radius for Telecasters these days. I think I'm right in saying. And this is 12, which is a lot flatter, which is, I think, good for shredding and stuff. Not that I would know, but I think this is 12. So there you go. That's what a radius is. If you didn't know that, you learned something as well. This has got a cowbone nut, incidentally, and the tuners, as you can see there, the vintage Kluson style tuners. These tuners are made in Korea. They're pressing bushings, and as you can see, they're they're typical Kluson easy stringage versions, which are great. And again, traditional ashtray style bridge. Chrome, I suppose. It doesn't say, it just says this is made in Korea as well, with the traditional 3. I guess these are chrome saddles, just like the Squire that we did last week. So yeah, I think that's that, isn't it? What we'll do in a minute is we'll take the strings off and we'll get a little bit deeper. Before that, let's weigh it. Okay, here we go. Seems like a reasonable weight. Let's find out. Just over £7, 8 ounces, or that's 3.42 kilograms. There you go. So as I was saying, they're not so widely available. They are available. I had a look on Reverb. I'll put a link in the description box. There you go. You can see them. You can get hold of them. Not sure about in the US, to be honest with you, but throughout Europe there are places that stock them. And this one, I paid £425 for this, and as you'll see, they're around about that. You can get them. 4 colours in this particular model are available. Black. There's what they call a yellow sunburst, a vintage white, and this natural one, which, as I said, I think it looks great, to be honest with you. Cracking. Let's have a closer look now. Yeah, let's have a closer look. Let's get the strings off and dive deeper. One of them came out. There you go. Oh, seems to be a thing now, doesn't it? Okay. Oh, it's in now. It's staying in now, so give it a shot. Oh, that's lucky, really. I was worried that one of those guys out in Japan might get the sack for that, but we're all good. Whew. Okay, here's the neck profile and measurements at the 1st fret. And here's the neck profile and measurements at the 12th fret. You can see it's got a fairly sort of a flat profile to it, but it's also fairly chunky. I quite liked it. Yeah, Canadian maple. The fingerboard is stuck on, as you can see. That was the same as the G&L, wasn't it? Well, obviously we're going to compare this with the G&L and the others later anyway, so I don't even know why I said that. Yeah, so no skunk stripe, truss rod inserted, maple fingerboard affixed. The frets on this are Sanko. I love it when they actually tell you what the frets are. Sanko SBB213. Unfortunately, I have no idea what that means, but some of you will, and you'll be going, oh, Sanko SBB213, that's good. Or maybe, oh, is that all Sanko SBB213? They're rubbish. I don't know, but they look all right, and they look kind of medium jumbo, and they're not sharp. They're not. I'll do some close-ups now. They don't, I mean, my eye, to the naked eye, that's the saying, to the naked eye, they don't appear to be quite as rounded at the edges as some of the other guitars that we've looked at, or some of the guitars I've looked at recently. I'm kind of beginning to learn a little bit more about this. They aren't sharp, but they're not especially soft. Quite nicely polished. I've played it. I had no issues at all. There's no buzzing. There's no, you know, no high spots. I'm not, there was a bit of a debate in the comments last week about use of a fret rocker. I didn't get involved, but I saw it. If that was you guys, there was a bit of to-ing and fro-ing. Fret rockers, yeah, I mean, they're handy. As I've said before, I play a guitar, and if I notice something wrong, I fix it, okay? I don't go looking for problems, and I suspect that some people do. And I think that was the point that some people were making. If you get a fret rocker at this, and I've got a fret rocker, I've got a fret rocker as well. I've got a fret rocker. If I got it out and started doing that, you go, oh no, there's rocking there. Well, it doesn't mean anything, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't mean anything unless it affects the playing. Now, yeah, of course, you can improve a guitar by doing that if you need to, but it ain't going to make me sound any better. It ain't going to make, I'll go as far as that. It isn't going to make any of you sound any better if you start leveling frets that don't really need it. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I'm sorry. I can only speak for myself, can't I? I'm not going to check these with the fret rocker. It played perfectly fine. What it didn't need doing is the intonation again, though. Same happened last week with the Squire. I started playing in it. It was like, ooh, don't sound nice. And it was, the intonation was way out again. So it wasn't set up. Well, it wasn't set up, you know, by the time I got it, you know. Wood moves and stuff, doesn't it? So anyway, I changed that and I think it sounds all right now. You be the judge of that. You're going to hear it in a minute. Right. Okay, so that's that. I've spoken about the bridge, haven't I, as well? So what we're going to do now is we're going to measure the pickups first, and then we're going to take them out and have a look underneath. Now, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so the pickups are also made in Korea, and it says they're ferrite magnets. I think that's a little bit like ceramic magnets. Not sure. Maybe you know. Let us know in the comments if you do. Let's take some readings. Let's start on the bridge. 6.52 kilo ohms, and the inductance is 3.34 henries. And then on the neck, okay, blimey, 4.58 kilo ohms, blimey, 2.13 henries. Wow, is that right? 4.58, wow. Okay, well, there you go. That's what they are. Oh, let's just see in the middle. It's given us a 2.71K. There you go. Okay, let's start with the control plate. Woo. There you go. Little mini pots. And Okay, so yeah, I've managed to wrangle this over, and what we can see is these pickups do look a bit different. They seem to have magnets attached to the bottom. They do look a little bit cheap, to be honest with you. They look a bit cheap, but I mean, you know, we can judge whether or not they sound cheap. But that's quite a nice and tidy job, isn't it? The cavities, they have got some sort of shielding paint in them, and that's that really. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, the pickups are a bit sort of near. Let's just pop that back. Yeah, that's pretty much all we've got to see there, isn't it? So then we can flip the also quite cheap looking wiring. It's got these little mini pots, and alpha they are. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but alpha pots. 3P patent pending switch. Doesn't say where that's made, and traditional wiring as far as I can tell. The switch feels okay. There you go. That's what's under there. Okay. So we'll screw that back, and then we'll put a new set of strings on and plug it in. See what it sounds like. See you in a minute. Okay, the Tokai Breezysound. This is what it sounds like unplugged. Ooh, it's got a nice spank to it. Sounds nice. And this is what it sounds like plugged in. To the Princeton 65, as usual, that's what I've been using lately. On the board, I've got a soul food and a rat today, and you'll see if I tread on them. Okay, so no pedals to start with. Fully dimed. Neck. Middle. It sounds all right, doesn't it? It sounds all right. It's difficult to know, really, in isolation. It's because you've got nothing to compare it to. So I'm looking forward to doing the comparison, which we'll talk a bit more about in a sec. But in isolation, it sounded all right, I thought. I thought my playing was all right this week. Sometimes I battle a little bit with myself, you know. I don't really think I necessarily battle with guitars very often. People often say in the comments they can see when I'm enjoying playing a guitar. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think maybe the guitar does influence. I'm sure it does, actually. I'm sure the guitar does influence me and how I play, but it's so much of it's in there. And I've said before what a struggle it is sometimes to come up with something and to be present. Or is it to not be present, probably, isn't it? The best way to play is just to play, not think about it at all. And the trouble is when we're doing this, it's very difficult not to think about it because I have to perform. I've got cameras on me, you know, it's recording it. And that's why I say I struggle sometimes, because to come up week in, week out with an idea that work, and do you know what I do is I obviously I come up with an idea. I think maybe the guitar will inspire it. Maybe, you know, I just hear something. I think, oh, I can do a loop on that. Because all I do is steal a little idea, a little loop, keep it simple, because I am stupid. Keep it simple and just riff on it. You know, all of the noodling's all improvised, but you might find a familiar idea in there. You might hear where it comes from sometimes not. So, you know, I'll come up with an idea and I'll practice it at home and that's great, that works really well, you know. And then a couple of days later, when I come to record it in here, it's gone. It's just gone because the groove's not there. And honestly, I'd like to talk more about playing at some point, you know, what my limitations are. One of the things that I've noticed from this is, you know, technically I'm not brilliant. I'm not, you know, super fast, but I've got some licks, haven't I? But the groove is the most important thing. The groove, and then the timing. And sometimes the groove's not there because I suppose you're thinking about something else. I said, yeah, you're thinking about what you're having for dinner or what's gone wrong or what might go wrong or whatever. Anyway, this week was okay. You know, it was okay. Both of the things kind of worked. That was a little bit of inspiration from Funk 49. That, I think it was the first one in this film. But if you think that was good, you know, go and listen to Phil X play it. He's got a video with him jamming over Funk 49. That's good, okay. What I did was okay. And really done so that you could hopefully hear what the guitar sounded like on, I think I did, you know, it was fairly clean, that. And then the other bit I did, obviously, you know, telly, I thought, well, I'd try a bit of Brucey. So, you know, got those chords going on, and I think that's coming up, most of that, actually. I think that's the plan. So next bit of playing on the play out, a bit of Brucey, step on the Rat, and see what happens, you know. Does the job. Shows you a range of sounds that you can get from Telecaster. I mean, Telecasters are probably, I think, the most versatile guitars, to be honest with you. I'm not a Strat fan, as you know. I know people say Strats are versatile, but I don't see that at all because they've got a very distinctive whine to them, which tellies don't possess. Tellies are really bright. That's the Telecaster sound, and this has got that in spades. But you can tone it down a bit via the tone control, which works perfectly well on this, or the rig that you're using. And you can get, even from this single coil in a neck position of a Telecaster, you can get that sounding pretty fat and nice. And of course it cuts a lot more than a lot of humbuckers, if you get a good one. So that was a very long-winded way of me saying I thought this sounded all right. I'm looking forward to comparing it with the others that we've looked at recently and not so recently. Let me just show you this. A lot of you probably weren't even watching over a year ago when we reviewed this, the Sire T7, or Larrycaster, as I called it. A 500 quid-ish guitar. The G&L Arse Hat that we reviewed a couple of weeks back. 500 quid-ish guitar, although I bought this at a bargain price. And just last week, this gorgeous Squier Classic Vibe. 400 quid, this one. So we're going to line those up alongside this Tokai and pick them apart and compare them. And at that point, we'll be able to listen to them all back to back to get a clearer idea of where the pickups figure, because that's going to be the most difference, isn't it, between these guitars. They've all got the traditional ashtray style bridge, but the materials that are made out of are going to be different in it. Some of the saddles are different, some are brass, some are chrome. The nuts are going to be a little bit different on some of them. And of course the tone woods are going to be different. The necks, we've got maple, we've got roasted maple, we've got rosewood boards. So it's going to be interesting. And I think the biggest difference is going to be heard from the pickups though. We'll see. We'll see. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be in a few weeks' time. First off, I'm going to do some other stuff for a couple of weeks now to appease the people that are not quite so keen on Telecasters, I suppose. Next week, now I'm saying I'm going to do this next week. It is likely that I'm going to do this next week unless something else takes me fancy. But next week, I'm going to make a film about this. This here is, well, it's another Gibson Les Paul, isn't it? This is my last remaining Gibson Les Paul. It's a custom shop R4, 1954 reissue this. It's a lovely thing, it really is a lovely thing. But just recently, very recently, I sold a couple of other Gibsons, didn't I? Finally sold my Les Paul Standard 50s a few weeks back. That's gone to a good home. And I sold an SG Custom as well, which has gone to a good home. It's been quite cathartic, and I haven't missed either of those yet. And I've been thinking about this, and I'm thinking, should I just sell this as well because it's a high-value guitar? That money can be invested in this channel. So I'm thinking about it. So what I'm going to do next week is make a film about that, and let's talk about my thought process and make a decision, see if it is something I actually want to do or not. So that's next week. And also coming up on the channel, do you remember this Gretsch Streamliner G something or other? A little package has arrived from Mojo Pickups for this. Can you guess what they are? I'm going to unbox those over on the TV channel probably this weekend. So if you fancy 30 days free subscription, go over there and you'll find out what they are in advance, okay? There's the link for that. Nice little plug for the TV channel there, eh? So yeah, in a few weeks, I'm going to upgrade this. Not only am I going to put these mystery pickups in it, but I've got some nice fancy hardware. I've got a new bridge and a new tailpiece. I've also got a Bigsby B7 I'm thinking about maybe putting on it if it fits, and I think it will. So, well, you watch regularly. Hopefully you do. So you'll find out, as will I. So yeah, that's coming up too. So there you go. We've covered some ground here, haven't we? I don't know if I even spoke much about this guitar in that. What do we think of it? Well, we talked about a lot of other things. I think this is a great guitar. I think it really feels solid. I like the neck on this. It was quite different. It feels quite wide, but I don't think it is necessarily wide. You can have a look at again, when we do the comparison, we'll actually put them all side by side. So if that's a deciding factor in, if you're thinking about getting one of these or one of the others, that will help. That's what we do in the comparisons. Put them all side by side, all the pickup readings, and we'll hear them all side by side. So I'm looking forward to that. But, you know, I'm off again, and it's a nice little guitar, this. It feels proper solid, and there were no problems with it. You know, although it, you know, I sneered at the little mini pots, it all worked fine. Switch feels fine. It's a nice looking guitar. So, what else was I going to say? I think that's it, actually, to be honest with you. I think that's more than it, but it's too late now. I've done it. So, yeah, there you go. Well, come back next week and let's have a chat about me final Gibson Les Paul and see what we're going to do about that. And then in a few weeks' time, we'll be back with the other stuff and this comparison. And then following that, I'm going to get some more T-styles in. I'm going to get the Fender one in, obviously the cheapest Fender that I can get. I'm going to get, what am I going to get? I can't remember what the other ones are. I'm going to get a Vantage, I think, and some others. Maybe even an FGN. We'll see. You know, keep watching, keep coming back. Every week here, same time, same place. Me talking bollocks about guitars for way longer than is probably necessary. So if you like watching that sort of stuff, I'll see you next week. Look forward to it. Cheers for now. Ta-da.